Hello, welcome back students for the next lecture on the concept of next poetic type, that is epic. I hope you are well and you are safe at home. In the previous presentations we have learned some poetic types, and now in this presentation we are going to have a look at the another poetic type, that is epic. So what exactly is an epic? If you have to define epic, epic is a very long narrative poem on a serious subject written in a very grand style. So it is a kind of a poem, but the theme of the poem is very serious and it is written in a very grand style with grand vocabulary and like that. Okay, so subject of epic is generally a great hero or a nation or a tribe or a community. So in almost all the epics you will find that central person or the protagonist or the main person, central character in the epic is generally a great person. He is a warrior or commander or something like that, or nation even can be a hero, or a tribe or community can be the subject of the epic. Now this epic is divided into two categories. One category is called as primary epic or folk epic, and the second category is called as secondary epic or literary epic. Now what is this primary and secondary epic? How can we differ these two different categories of epics? So about primary epic, we can say that this epic is generally it is based on the life of a heroic figure. Life of a very adventurous person is shown in primary epic. Okay, and this epic, primary epic or folk epic, it shows that hero's achievement. As a hero, what kind of achievement he has done, what he has achieved in his life, because already we understood in the previous slide that hero of or subject of epic is generally a great person, and that person is the hero, and that person generally starts a kind of a adventure to achieve something. He wants to undergo a war, or he wants to win something, and therefore he starts a journey. And this primary or secondary epic it describes that hero's achievement. Now these are the examples of primary or secondary epic, that is Homer's Iliad. Iliad is one of the epic written by Homer, and Odyssey is the second epic written by Homer. Homer was a very great Greek poet, and he had written these two epics. So basically the first category of epic, that is primary epic, is generally based on life of a heroic figure. Okay, and it describes that hero's achievement. For example, the historical movie that we watch in Indian cinema, so we know that in generally historical movie the hero's achievement is shown. For example, even that recently released film, that is Bahubali, there we find that Bahubali is a kind of a king, and then he fights with another kind of a villain, and his achievement is shown. So such kind of atmosphere is generally shown in that epic. So this category is called as folk epic or primary epic. In the second category, that is secondary epic or literary epic, this epic is based on life of a legendary character, the character which is already known to the people, the character which has been in the generations. Okay, such kind of person is generally projected as a hero of that secondary epic. And in this epic we find the poet is putting lot of poetic imagination. He is putting lot of imaginary things in that epic, and in this way we can differentiate this secondary epic from the primary epic. Now just as I said that Iliad and Odyssey are the example of primary epic, so Aeneid written by Virgil and Paradise Lost written by Milton, these two are the examples of secondary epic. Secondary epic is also called as literary epic. Okay, and this one primary epic is called as folk epic. So this secondary epic is generally based on a life of a legendary character, like in Indian context, Ramayana, Mahabharat, because Ramayana is based on the life of Lord Ram. Okay, in Mahabharat we find that five Pandavas are there, and then 100 Kauravas are there, and then there is a war between these two factions, and a lot of supernatural things and poetic imaginations are used there. So of the secondary epic category, Virgil's Aeneid and Milton's Paradise Lost are the best example. Now, tragedy and epics. Now, these two genres are considered as the highest literary genres by Aristotle. Aristotle thinks that of all the literary genre, that is either poetry or drama or novel or short story or whatever, so out of these literary genres, tragedy and epic, Aristotle considers epic and tragedy as the highest literary genre, because in these two epics the writer has to be serious, the theme has to be serious, and the tone or way of writing also should be appropriate. Writer of epic faces great challenges. So, epic writing is not an easy task. Anybody can write a simple poem or lyric poem, but epic writing needs some special things that you will have to take care. So, any writer of epic, he faces lot of challenges, lot of problem. One thing is that he must have a vast knowledge of the culture, of the community, of the history. Okay, he must have creativity, because a lot of imagination, imaginary things he has to put in that epic. So he must have creative ability. He must have that skill of writing and understanding of his own world, whatever world that he has seen, whatever culture is there, so whatever legendary figures are there. So he must have a thorough understanding of his own literature or his own past life, and on the basis of that only he can write a epic. Okay, now what are the features of epic, what are the characteristics of epic? So in the literary epic follows certain conventions of the out of these two category, primary and secondary. Secondary epic is also called as literary epic, that is which is written in the form of a book, and these particular literary epics, they show a kind of a common features. Okay, so what are these features? First thing is that hero of literary epic must be a man of exceptional greatness. So hero must be a great person, he must be a great warrior. Okay, for example, Achilles, he was a great warrior, and Aeneid is the son of goddess Aphrodite. Now Aeneid is the title of Virgil's epic, but who is Aeneid? Aeneid is not a common person. Aeneid is the son of the goddess Aphrodite. In Greek literature, just as in Indian mythology, a lot of characters we know. So, like that, in Greek literature also, mythological characters are there, gods and goddesses are there, and this Aeneid is the son of goddess Aphrodite. Okay, so as I said, that hero must be a man of exceptional greatness. He must be a person of, he must be a great person. Like second example in Milton's Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is also epic, literary epic. Now in this epic, Adam, he is the hero. But who is Adam? Adam is the father of mankind. He can be called as the first human being or first man on this entire earth, and he is projected as a hero of the Paradise Lost. So as a hero, you cannot project a common person or a very poor person or very a general person as a hero of the epic. You will have to show hero as a great person. Okay, only great person can work as a hero of the epic. Second thing, we find that in every epic, hero's long journey is described. Hero is undertaking a journey, and this entire journey is shown in the epic, and it forms a part of the story. For example, in Ramayana, we know that when that Sita was abducted by that Ravana, so Lord Ram, then Lakshman and Hanuman and other people, they take a journey towards that Lanka, and then they attack over Lanka. So a long journey is there. Okay, so in epic, generally we find the hero is undertaking a long journey. Okay, as in Ramayana we know. So in similarly in English epics also, the hero is undertaking a very long journey. For example, Odyssey is the epic written by that Greek poet, and here the hero is Odysseus, and this Odysseus wanders in the Mediterranean Ocean, in the Mediterranean region, and in the latter books descends into the underworld. So hero of Odyssey, that Odysseus, so Odysseus is the hero, and he undertakes a very long journey, and then he wanders through that Mediterranean region, and finally he reaches to the underworld. So such a long journey is described in the epic. So long journey of epic is one of the feature, one of the common thing of literary epic. Third thing is we have to understand setting. The setting of epic encompasses a vast space. Now setting means that is background or the location where the story is happening. Okay, so in case of epic, we know that epic story of the epic happens in a very large ground, or you can say in a very large area, in a very large space. For example, Paradise Lost is the best example. Now the story of Paradise Lost happens in hell as well as heaven, so it gives a kind of a cosmic dimension to that Paradise Lost. Now we know that when we watch Hindi movies, we find that for example Sholay is the very famous example of classical Indian cinema, and we know that the story of Sholay happens in a very small village, that is Ramgarh. Okay, so Ramgarh is a small area, but in case of epic the story happens in a very large area. So you can understand that some part of the story happening in heaven, some part of the story happening in hell. So such kind of a very cosmic dimension is given to the epic. So in epic we find that epic, a story of the epic generally covers a very vast area. Then we come to fourth common feature. We find supernatural element in every epic. So it is a very common feature in most of the literary epics. Now what does it mean? Gods and goddesses take active part in the human affairs and direct them actively. Now in the story of the epic, we find that gods are presented as character, goddesses are presented as character, and they interfere in the human situations, in the human life. Even they give guidance to them, they guide to them, they even direct to them. So such kind of atmosphere is there. We find the same kind of thing in case of Ramayana also. In Ramayana, such kind of lot of supernatural elements are shown, like Hanuman is lifting that entire Dronagiri mountain with his one hand. So it is not a natural event. Lifting the entire mountain on one hand, on one palm, is not something natural. It is a supernatural thing, because we as a common human being, we cannot lift a mountain with one hand. So it is a supernatural element or supernatural thing. So such kind of supernatural elements are generally used in epic. Lot of supernatural things are shown, gods are shown, goddesses are shown, and they talk to the human being. So such kind of atmosphere is there. Now you see the examples: Apollo, Zeus, Thetis, Hera, and Athena. They are all characters of Greek mythology. Okay, and these characters they appear in the story of the Greek epics. Okay, so even Jehovah, Jesus Christ, and angels, they play distinctive roles in the Paradise Lost. So these Apollo, Zeus, Thetis, Hera, all these character, mythological character, they play central role in the story of the Greek epics, and Jehovah, Jesus Christ, and angel, they play central role in the story of Paradise Lost. So all these are supernatural. They are not human beings. They are gods and goddesses. Okay, but even then they play a role in the story. So making gods and goddesses as character and giving them some role in the story is one of the element of epic. Then comprehensiveness and high seriousness distinguish epic from other literary work. So every epic is very comprehensive, because a lot of things you come to know. The story is very serious, and it is written in a very very grand style, and it is very lengthy poem. So comprehensiveness and high seriousness, the poet is highly serious about the matter as well as manner. Okay, he cannot use a very common language or simple language for writing epic. For writing epic, you will have to use very sophisticated and very grand language. For example, if you are making a movie on Shivaji Maharaj, so you will have to use dialogues and language of that particular period. Lot of movies are there, like that Jodha Akbar you have seen, or even that Mughal Azam you might have seen the Hindi movies. So there you will find that the language which is used in the film was appropriate to that particular period. Today's language is not used there, because if a director is using today's language, language of people living in Mumbai, so that story will not become impressive, and therefore the poet has to be the director, the writer has to be very serious in case of subject matter as well as manner. Another feature is invocation. Invocation you will find in every epic. Invocation means what? Statement of theme. Means in the beginning part of epic, the poet describes the theme of that particular epic. It is called as invocation. Then after invocation we find there is one more element, that is proposition. So proposition means what? The poet is making a prayer to Muse. Muse is actually goddess of poetry in Greek mythology. So poet is making a prayer to the goddess of poetry, that is Muse, and these two features they occur in the beginning part of epic. In every epic you will find invocation, that is statement of theme. The poet is describing what is the theme, and then poet will talk about the proposition, that is he will make a prayer to that goddess of poetry. So these are six features. Seventh feature is action of any epic generally begins in the middle part of the story. It does not begin in the beginning, it middles in the middle part of the story. For example, in Iliad is the example of epic. Now here the real action begins in the 10th year of Trojan War. Trojan War was a kind of a war in Greek mythology, which was fought between that Greek people and Alexander, who had um, kidnapped the wife of that Menelaus. Okay, he had kidnapped that Helena. Helena was supposed to be the most beautiful woman in Greek mythology, and he kidnaps that Helena. So because of kidnapping, there is a war between Greek people and that Alexander's army. But the real action of the war begins in the 10th year of the story. So story action does not begin in the in the very initial part. Action begins in the middle part of the epic. Then one more feature we find, the use of Homeric simile. Simile is a kind of a figure of speech in which we compare two objects or two persons. Okay, and Homeric simile means if the comparison is very long, then that is called as Homeric simile. So it is a kind of a feature which we find in any epic. For example, Milton compares that Saturn, who is the villainous character in that Paradise Lost, he compares Saturn lying in a lake of fire to a Leviathan in a book first of Paradise Lost. So Milton's comparison of Saturn with that Leviathan, it's a very long comparison. So generally long comparison is called as Homeric simile. Okay, if a short comparison is there, then it can be called as a simile. But if the poet is continuously making a comparison, then it can be called as Homeric simile. So Homeric simile is one of the integral feature, compulsory feature of every epic. Then the epic usually contains a listing or catalog of main characters who are introduced with details relating to their achievement. In every epic, lot of characters are there, but how to understand, how the reader will understand that who is who. So therefore the poet generally in the beginning part of the epic, he is providing a kind of a catalog, he is providing a kind of a list, and in that list the poet introduces who is the particular character or who is who, so that the reader and the viewer can have a better understanding of the entire story, because lot of characters are there, so people may get confused, readers will get confused, and therefore to avoid that confusion the poet is providing a kind of a catalog or list. Then last feature is other works which display the epic spirit in theme, setting and scope and share some of the features of the epic are also considered as epics. Now previous 9 features we find in all the epics written in Greek literature. But in modern poetry, in modern literature, or the epics are also written even in 18th century, 19th and 20th century. But in these epics, all such things are not present, all such features are not present. There are some differences, but even then they become epic. For example, Divine Comedy. Divine Comedy is a book written by Dante. He was also a great poet, Greek poet, and this Divine Comedy is also it can be also called as epic. Then Fairy Queen is the long poem, that is romance. It is written by Spenser, and this is also considered as epic. So even though these two books do not show all the features of Greek literature or Greek epic, but they have something common. They share some of the features of the epic, and therefore they can also be considered as epic. Okay, now these are the pictures of famous epic books which are written in poetry, in literature. This is the Odyssey, written by Greek poet Homer. Then this one is John Milton's Paradise Lost, and after that he wrote Paradise Regained. Both of them are epics written by John Milton. Then we find Virgil wrote a very famous epic, that is Aeneid. And last, these two are the examples of Indian epics, that is Mahabharata and Ramayana. So basically, for understanding epic, you can simply visualize what we find in Mahabharata, what we find in that Ramayana. Then we can understand what is English epic. So generally, epic is a very long poem, narrative poem, and in that poem we find that a story is having a lot of character, subject is very serious, and manner of writing is also serious. And then there are some features, that supernatural element is present there. Poet is describing the theme in the beginning part, and then poet is making a prayer to the goddess of muse. Action begins in the middle. So such kind of features are there. After reading all these things, we can understand any epic, or just visualize the Ramayana or Mahabharata. You can have at least one idea what exactly is the epic. So just keep reading at home, and let me know your progress. If you face any questions while reading, any queries while reading, post your questions on the WhatsApp group. I will try to answer. So I will stop here. I will bring out a next video, and through that next video we will discuss another concept. So thank you, stay safe at home, and just keep studying.